people are so pushed to, if you are great, you should monetize it, which I hate that word, monetize. Write your bad poetry and paint pictures that make no sense just because you enjoy it. Did you ever watch that show, The West Wing? The main character, who's the president, had multiple sclerosis. I kept telling my husband, President Bartlett had it and could still run a country. I'll be fine. Let me believe what I need to believe right now to get through this.
The MS Positive podcast is a platform where people living with multiple sclerosis come to share everything else they do with their lives aside from being an MS patient. Among our guests are artists, singers, bloggers, actors, authors, DJs, and much more. And yeah, also health professionals, because we have to stay in the know. We're more than MS. How do you find out that you can sing opera? Is it like from the first time you sing, it comes out, or you train, or somebody tells you, you can sing opera? How does that work?
Our choir sang, the school choir, we sang mostly classical music and Puerto Rican music. And the type of singing that you had to do was very classic. So I started getting little solos around 5th or 6th grade. And the teacher told me, she's like, oh, you have a nice voice. You should consider taking lessons. And then again, when I went over to 7th grade, the music teacher there was actually a singer. He was a professional singer. So when I joined the choir there, he would nurture certain voices, and mine was one of them. One of my fellow choir members became a professional opera singer, and she had this incredible voice. But we all started there. We all started in the school choir. The conductor was an actual singer that knew technique, and he could coach us in a healthy way.
Let's start with your training, your guitar training, and your background in music.
I was really lucky that my elementary school had this incredibly good music teacher. And we had a choir, and she gave guitar lessons. So I took everything I could, and it was a Catholic school. So guitar was actually like following the Virgin around when it was moved like from classroom to classroom, the Virgin Mary. The teacher started complaining to my mom that I was hardly ever in class, but I was doing fine. So she's like, whatever, she's happy. But the choir, the elementary school choir, was really good. We even did a recording, and we sang. You remember Valeria Lynch?
Valeria Lynch? Oh my God.
Yeah, we did.
That's like in my archives back here.
Yes. Our choir did a recording for one of her videos. I think it was the song Piensa en mí. So she's there all glam, and then like all these little kids singing behind her, and I was one of them. So that's how I started in choirs and church and singing in the school. I went over to middle school, high school, which here, the school I went to, it was together. And again, I had these incredible teachers. And then in 9th grade, I was able to start taking singing lessons, but it was all in school.
But probably the voice evolves over time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like it turns into more of a melodic, or maybe a more opera kind of voice.
It depends how you train it, but the voice is the only instrument that you can't see. It's inside of you. So it develops with your body as you go through teenagerhood, and it grows with your body, and it changes at certain points of your life. So yeah, it develops, and you go through singing different kinds of repertoire depending on how your voice is behaving at the time of your life. If you're doing a healthy type of singing, your repertoire will change.
I know that you love to read, and so I'm going to recommend a book to you, and I'm not sure if you have not read it, because I know you have read. How many books have you read? Let's start with that.
Bueno,
How many would you
estimate
estimate you have read? Because we know, people that know your book, we always reading 2 or 3 books at a time. How many have you read?
I don't know how many I've read in total, but Last year, I read 101 books. Also, it's the year that I've read the most. I'd never read that many in 1 year.
I have a recommendation for you. It's called The Singer Stuck. The Singer
Okay.
Stuck is a book where he is actually a member of a band, a rock band, but he interviewed a bunch of singers throughout several years. And the discussion is only about the voice, which
Okay.
is something that they don't ask the like a front man of a band. They don't really talk about their voice, the challenges they go through, how to train the voice when you start to develop, I don't know, a cold or something, how the fluctuations, in your body, in your system affect your performance and how they have to keep going. It's very interesting. So I recommend that to you.
Okay. I
um
will look that up.
yeah, I should have read it. I didn't think about it. I have it. It's very interesting. It's very interesting what they had to say. All right, so music is your thing, and you went to college, right, to study music, and then you were involved in journalism, creative writing.
I went to university to study music. That was my decision. But I wanted to maybe take some courses in other things just to better prepare. So, I like to write. So I thought, oh, journalism. But I went to journalism and took some classes and I was doing fine. But in one of the writing courses, the teacher comes to talk to me and he's like, you should really consider in the English department some creative writing. I think you'd be great for that. And then I took photojournalism, which I loved. And then the teacher came to me and she's like, you should consider taking some classes in the art department and you'd be really good for that. And I just always felt like every time I tried to do something quote unquote practical, I would always get pushed towards the creative side of it. I couldn't make practical stick. So I just always ended up in the creative side of things and working there.
Usually creative people, and I understand, usually creative people don't have like one talent. That's the thing, right? It's like you have multiple talents and you can sing or you can paint or you can write. And so it's hard to just stick to one thing. Although usually you have one of favorite thing, but you're still good at many of them, is what I mean.
Well, I think it's really an attitude and a way of living life because I really think everybody is a creative person. And I just think that nowadays people are so pushed to, if you're not great at this, you
Right.
shouldn't be doing that. And if you are great, you should monetize it, which I hate that word, monetize, because people have really lost the joy of doing creative things just for doing them. I wish, you could just write your bad poetry and sing in your church choir and paint pictures that make no sense just because you enjoy it. And I really think people should do that more instead of just being like, oh, I don't have any talent for that. Well, so what? Just go do it, enjoy it, and have a richer life with creativity in your life.
Right. So how do you switch from all the creative aspect of your life and the studies in creative fields to go to law school?
I went through a very rough patch emotionally in my college years, in the music school. And I decided, I think maybe music's not my thing, but I had a bachelor's degree in music. And what can you do with that to study something else? Well, you can go to law school. Like the dean of the law school said here, you can come into law school with a bachelor's degree in frosting. As long as you have the grades and you pass the exams, it's fine. So I did that. And suddenly I found myself in very alien territory for me. I was so used to like all these over the top people and very in your face, and suddenly I was with people that were a lot more subdued and
Boring?
no, no,
More
no, I
structure,
wouldn't
more
say
structure,
boring.
maybe.
But I think I was just intimidated by it. And then I had one friend that I knew from before, which is actually now my husband. And I had real trouble meeting people because I was shy about putting myself out there. I felt like I didn't belong. So I put up flyers to make a choir. I didn't ask anybody. I just posted some flyers and I was like, if you like to sing in a group, we're going to put together a law school choir and come on audition. And people actually came. And so I made my first friends through the law school choir. And then I was able to meet more people. And I realized that it was just me that felt awkward. Most of them were just incredibly great and gracious and funny. And I've made some friends that I have to this day. So law school in that sense ended up being great. And the choir was awesome. It was really great because I call them my choir of nerds, because you have all these people that actually study and you tell them, you have to go home. And I would make recordings of their voices because I couldn't read music. So I would give them the score and record their part. And I'm like, you have to go home and study this. And they would actually do it, which a lot of musicians don't. They just come and read, but they actually studied, so they knew their music, and we were able to do concerts, and they had us sing in like all the activities in the school, and it was great fun. My nerd choir rocked.
That's crazy. Your creative side still was alive in you. Huh? You couldn't like stay away from it.
Yeah, and I actually, while I was doing, because I was in the UPR here in the University of Puerto Rico, while I was in the law school, I was also taking classes in the Department of Music. I was taking voice lessons with a teacher there that I really liked, and I was actually part of an ensemble, lyric theater ensemble, and that's how I paid for law school, by singing, of all
Wow.
ironies. So I was doing a lot of music, and I actually was part of a opera by a local composer, El Espejo de la Reina, the Queen's Mirror. And it was a world premiere, and I was part of it, and that was great. So I was doing a lot while I was in law school.
That's really cool. I wonder if all those nerds that joined your choir were all going to law school, or were they from other faculties? Like, were they all
No, they were
like
from law
lawyers that
school.
could sing? Who would have
Yes,
known?
no,
Who would have
who would
known?
have known? But they really did, and I had some good voices. I'd had the regular choir, and I ended up making this quartet of voices, which like my best soprano, my best alto, my best tenor, my best bass, and we would do more complicated repertoire. And nada, it was really fun.
So during college, you experienced your first symptoms of multiple sclerosis. What were the first things that you noticed?
I had tingling in my feet, especially when I exercised, and I would often, like, if I in the university gym, if I saw someone, like a teacher or someone was like, I'm feeling this, is this normal? Why is this happening? And they're like, oh, maybe it's something with your circulation. But it wouldn't last very long. But I've been trying to look back and pinpoint when I started feeling symptoms. And that's, I think, the best I can come up with. I also had fatigue, and I had depression, which I learned through my neurologist that it's one of the most common symptoms. So that's why I think they started there.
Yeah, among all chronic diseases, the highest rate of depression is on multiple sclerosis patients. So it's very common. My first one was when I was 19 as well. So I was in college. I just didn't know that that was a symptom of multiple sclerosis. I had the Lermits, when you
Uh-huh.
bring your head down and you get that um, shock.
The current, yeah.
Yeah, mine didn't hurt. Sometimes I have it. I've heard from people that it hurts. Mine was not painful, but it really threw me off. I thought I was gonna die. So I went to a neurologist in Puerto Rico that completely dismissed it. He did not at all thought of any neurological disease. So I left the office without an answer. I didn't know what that was. I actually learned now, like 15 years later, 20 years later, but I didn't know what that was. But yeah, I remember also back then in college. I think it's when I had my first typical MS symptom. But regardless of that, I think I've had it all my life since I was a little girl. Not when I was 19. I think that was the first that was documented.
For me, I'm only now trying to pinpoint when it started. And that's a best guess type of situation. It's not, I haven't asked anyone. And confirmed if like a neurologist and say like, do you think this was it, or should I look further up or further back? But I remember fatigue, depression, and that weird tingling in my feet.
So then you became a mom. Tell me about that chaos and how did that relates to
Yes.
your MS symptoms?
I think chaos is the correct word for
Yes.
when you become a mom. By that time, I had graduated law school. I had worked for a while. And then actually, because I worked a lot as a lawyer and sang a little, and then I decided I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I went back to the conservatory here and did a program, a performance diploma thing. And then I was singing a lot and lawyering a little. And I did that for a while. But then I got pregnant with my first kid. So I stopped singing a lot. And then I would just sing a little, but mainly work as an attorney on a part-time basis. I wasn't diagnosed yet. It was still a long time coming. But it was, my God, having your first kid is
it's a lot of pressure.
Chaotic.
It's chaotic.
It's chaotic and
Stress.
It's exhausting, and it's because your body has to come. It's not only what you're doing, it's what your body has to do in terms of your hormones. It has to come through to this postpartum stage, and that takes months, and you're breastfeeding and you never sleep.
God.
But you never sleep, and
No.
and I mean you're happy, but you're also overwhelmed and you're tired, and oh my God, it is so much. It's like the beginning of Private Ryan. It's just, oh my God. I had my first kid, and then 4 years later, I had my second kid. That was really different, actually, that pregnancy, because at least with the first kid, when you're tired, you can rest. But with your second kid, when you're tired, you still have to take care of your other kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's no resting during the day, and it was a lot to go back to diapers.
Now looking back, do you feel like your MS symptoms that now were MS symptoms, did they subside during pregnancy? I feel mine did. Do you feel the same way?
Well, yes, I feel especially fatigue, which is like the recurring theme, especially the second and third trimester. I would feel, very energetic, and I could do a lot of things, and I felt like that. I felt better.
Yeah, they say that pregnancy kind of put the disease to sleep.
But isn't that because during pregnancy, your body suppresses your immune system a bit?
They also say, I've read, I don't know if you have read a lot of books, but I read once about the gonadotropin hormone that is produced by the body only when you're pregnant, and that's how the urine test pick up that you are pregnant, because you only produce it at the moment anyway. So they say that is kind of involved in the symptoms like subsiding during pregnancy. So they even try to do to make the artificial version of it. They just couldn't duplicate it to see if they could put it in a pill to make a kind of a treatment for for MS. So we talk about the chaotic life of a mom living with multiple sclerosis, which you didn't know you had MS at the moment, anyways.
No, I was still 6 years away from my diagnosis, and I don't remember. Apart from fatigue and depressions and stuff like that, I don't really remember feeling anything strange except for tinglings every now and then. But I think part of unless you have a real clear-cut case of MS, I could explain away anything. And that happened when I started feeling the weird symptoms. Like, I'm tired. Of course I'm tired. I'm working. I'm a mom. I have so much to do. I was teaching at that time. So of course I'm tired. And the vertigo, everybody gets vertigo. And I don't know, I could explain away with logic everything that I was feeling.
Not necessarily you had to blame it on something else, like a neurological issue. It was just everything had a reason for.
Exactly. I did not tie it together.
What's up with this online cookie store that you had? Where did that come from? Because this is completely off subject. But that's
it is.
Yeah, go ahead.
It
please.
is. It's just that I'm a person that I will deal with it. I will come up with something and I will deal with it. So I have my second kid, and I had lost my job in this law firm I was working in. And suddenly I have a newborn and I needed to do something, but I had a newborn. So I could always bake and I was a good baker. So I put the play yard inside the kitchen and then just started making cookies. And I posted some photos online and I started selling them. And I did that off and on for a couple of years. Actually, it worked out well. It was just born of needing to do something that I could deal with my kids at the same time that were babies. Yes, that I could do from home.
And feed them cookies. Dinner's ready.
So, I remember there were times when I was, especially my really busy season was from October until Three Kings Day, sort of. And I remember I was baking and the fridge was full of cookie dough. And my oldest boy came up to me like, "Mommy, you are baking too many cookies for the store and not enough cookies for the house."
And that's so cute.
He was like 4 or 5, and I was like, "Okay, I will try to find some time to make cookies for the home."
You just have to make extra.
Exactly. No, but he was indignant. He was like, "How dare you?"
That's cute.
So that's how the cookies came about. And I did that on and off for several years until I got a call from a friend of mine that was establishing a music program in the Universidad del Sagrado Corazón.
Yeah, that's my college. I graduated from there.
Pues they were establishing a music program and my friend invited me to teach. I was supposed to start that January, but I had to start a few months before because it was right after Hurricane Maria, and he got stuck outside of Puerto Rico and couldn't find a flight to come in. So he's like, you need to go and teach my classes now. And I was like, what? And I actually taught my first classes with the windows open and in the heat. And I would go in and sit at the piano and do this voice lesson. And by the end of it, I was covered in sweat.
But drenched.
Yes, I was drenched. No, I enjoyed it. And that started, I taught there for a couple of years. And I really loved it.
You were teaching a singing class?
I was teaching voice lessons. And I had this performance class, which was the one I really loved. It was called Photo Performance. And there those were really big classes. And we would work on the performance aspect of singing and characters and how do you develop that, the type of research that you have to do, how do you move on stage, and that was really fun. I loved it. And also it gave me an opportunity to sing there in faculty recitals and masses and stuff like that.
When you teach singing, were you teaching them how to sing opera, or do you teach them how to sing in general?
In general. Most of the kids there were doing mainly musical theater.
But actually. This is at college level, yes?
Yes.
It's college,
yes.
Okay.
Only a few of them are interested in classical. It was mainly musical theater and pop music. But I mean, technique is technique. You need to be able to use your voice. The performance lessons were the ones that I really, really liked. Those were great fun.
All right. So let's now get to MS. How was your diagnosis process? Did it take a long time? What did you go through? Tell me, like, the details.
It started while I was teaching, actually. It started with, I was driving back home from the university one afternoon and I was about to change lanes and I went like that to look in the mirror on the right side of the car. And for some reason I noticed my vision in that side my right eye was just really bad. But I had always had problems with my eyes. So I was like, oh no, I think I have to go to the doctor. So I had gotten LASIK surgery, but the doctor had told me that since I had a previous surgery on that side, that it might not get to 2020. So I figured that was it.
There was another logical explanation.
Exactly.
For what was happening. Got it.
So that happened. And then a few weeks later, I had a fall at work. And I was walking to my car and I just collapsed. And I'm very awkward. So yeah, I fall, I fell. It wasn't anything weird, but then I tore some ligaments. So I was dealing with that and I had a cast and I was still teaching. And I had like this little bike that you have now where you kneel on it and that's how you get around. But I would just storm down the the hallways of the faculty like that. And it was, I don't know, I felt very funny, but nah, it worked. And I did what I had to do. But then I started getting other symptoms. Like I would get so tired when I was teaching a class that actually I started having to teach sitting down in certain classes when I was doing pretty bad. And that was just strange because I mean, these performance classes you would take, it was very physical. You would grab them. It's like, move here and try this. And if I would take some kids, we would really have to work on their stage fright. And how I would do that is it was with a lot of pulling and pushing and like focus on me. And it was very, very physical. And then I went from that to having to sit in a corner and be like, try this and try that. And but I couldn't get up from the chair. And then I would start to get dizzy and I would have to stop. I remember a voice lesson where I had to stop for several minutes because, oh my God, I just couldn't make it stop. The thing with my vision hadn't gone away. I had vertigo and I started to get very strong tingling in my extremities and I was getting headaches. And that first vision symptom started in January and I didn't get to the doctor until late July, early August, simply because I was doing other things. And like we were talking, I could explain everything away, but it was just so strange. And I went to the eye doctor and I'm like, doctor, I think the operation didn't take on my right eye. I think I'm going to have to wear some glasses. He's like, okay, let's check. So he started checking and he would be adding to the machine to help you see through. He would keep adding and adding. And I'm like, no, I still can see. I see the same. And then he's like, huh. And then he came in and checked and he checked my cornea. He checked my retina. He checked everything. And so he's like, I'll be right back. And he disappeared for like 10 minutes and came back. And he's like, I made you an appointment for tomorrow for a CT scan. You have to go tomorrow without fail because everything is fine from the eye forward. So that means that we have to start looking from the eye back. And I completely freaked out because he thought, at that point, he thought I had a tumor. He told me that because he knew me. And if he didn't say something like that, I was just going to be like, oh, well, I'll go next week. I have to pick up my kids and I have to do this and do that. So, but I went, I got the results and they were written in doctor language and I couldn't understand them. So I sent them to this friend of mine that's a neurologist. And he's like, there's nothing here. You're fine. You don't have a tumor, thank God. But then what are your symptoms? And I told him, he's like, what you need is an MRI, not a CT scan. So that started the journey into doing labs and scans. And that lasted, my first MRIs were, I think in September. I didn't get diagnosed until June of the next year because mine didn't present as a classic MS. And every time they did an MRI, I didn't have an active lesion that glowed. And they did a spinal tap. Everything was kind of borderline. And everything was like, it could be MS, but it could be NMO and it could be all these other things. And at one point, I had done all these labs and they were still inconclusive and all these tests. So my friend recommended that, if you can, you need to go somewhere that's a big medical center that has a good department for ophthalmology and also a good department for neurology. Because, there's something, we just don't know what it is.
They couldn't catch optic neuritis at all. They couldn't say it's optic neuritis. Like they couldn't catch it.
No. At one point, one of the doctors here that saw me, because the first MRI that showed something was an MRI they did specifically of the eyes. And there they finally saw there was something in my right optical nerve, but they didn't know what it was. And the doctor told me it was like, maybe it's an inflammation and autoimmune something, or maybe it's a tumor again. But we can't biopsy you because it's in your optic nerve and then you'll be blind. And I was like, okay, thank you.
That's scary.
It was really scary. It was, and also, I don't know, like sometimes doctors deliver news like, oh, let's have a sandwich.
They don't have bedside manners.
Yeah, it's not all of them. It's just that some of them are so straightforward. You feel, at least me and my husband would feel like a car had run over us. And it just felt overly casual for what was being talked about. But I mean, it happens. But I really felt that with those news. And then we left, and we were able to get an appointment in Hopkins. And there, that's what they saw me, and I saw a neuro-ophthalmologist, and he was like, no, you don't have anything. I don't see anything that's indicative of NMO or MS, but you have a cataract in that eye. So I think that's why you're seeing like that. And I was like, what? And yeah, he's like, yeah, it's a cataract. You're fine. And my husband was so happy because, it's something simple. And
Good news, a cataract can be
I
removed.
exactly, but I felt absolutely insane because we came out of the appointment and I sat down in front of the hospital and just started to cry. And my husband was so happy, and he's like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? I'm like, because I mean, if I have made this up for some reason to the point where I have felt all of these other things and they're not real, there's something wrong with my brain. I'm obviously crazy. So I thought I was going to have to check myself in somewhere, because if you're deluding yourself to the point where you feel things, that's a big problem. And actually, that was one of the hardest things for me in the diagnostic process.
The validation.
Still,
It's the
the
validation.
validation. Yes.
Everybody's looking for
Still,
validation because everybody knows there's something wrong. Yes? I think it's a common
yes.
factor. Everybody knows there's something wrong. You just need somebody to agree with you and give you validation. You're not crazy. There's actually something more complicated behind these
Yes.
odd symptoms that you're having.
But it had gotten to the point, like, my labs were like, everything was okay, but it had gotten to the point where I was actually dreaming about it. In my dream, I would be like looking in a mirror and saying to myself, feeling things in the dream, and I would be talking to myself, and I would say, you're not feeling anything. You are just looking for attention, and you are making this up, and this is not real. So you need to stop that.
I don't like the sound of that. You were trying to convince yourself of the opposite of what you actually knew.
Because I mean, it was really tough for months and months and months to go to doctors, and they're like, we can't find anything. And I would be like, but I feel this, and they're like, okay, yeah, but we can't see it in the paper. That was one of the hardest parts for me. And then we go to this the big medical place that they had told us to, and the doctor was like, oh, it's a cataract, you're fine. So I literally sat down in front of the hospital and just bawled my eyes out. I calmed down, and then a few days later, we had another appointment with a neuroimmunologist, and he looked at my scans, and he also said, I don't think it's MS or one of the big ones, but I think you are having migraines of the inner ear, and that's why you're getting dizzy, and that's why the headaches. And I was like, okay, well, that explains something. So I felt a lot better. I'm like, okay, wait, I'm not crazy. I just have this thing. But he said, out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to send your scans to the radiologist here for a second opinion. It's like, okay, fine. So we come back to Puerto Rico, and we're like celebrating. It's like, there's nothing terrible, and we're drinking champagne, and we're so happy. And then I was getting my hair cut, and I get a call from the doctor that the scans had shown that the lesions that they saw were too big to be just from migraines, and that the radiologists believed that, yes, it was probable that I had MS. And I'm just sitting there with, my hair wet and freaking out all of a sudden. And I was like, get all of this off from me. I have to go. I have to go. I have to go. And I started crying, and they're like, because the beauty parlor where I go to, they're my friends, and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I have to go. Let me go. And then I just go over to where my husband was, and I'm like, I got this call. Let's call him back. And the doctor told me, what's important now is that we repeat your scans. And so I went, I think it was a week later, and I had an active lesion, and it glowed and everything for the first time. And so then he's like, you do have MS. The diagnosis is confirmed. We need to choose treatment. That diagnosis, it's heartbreaking, but at least for me, it was also a relief, which I've always found very strange.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one. I've heard that before. It's like a relief. It's like finally I know what as horrible as it has a name. It has an and now I know how to treat it or move forward.
And it wasn't anything fatal, and it
Right.
was something that I
That
could
too.
work with.
Right.
Yes, that's very important. But also, it put an end to, it validated what I had been feeling and the fact that I was not insane and saying all these things. I wasn't making it up. It was real. I felt relief mixed in with sadness and happiness that it finally had a name, because I kept saying to my friends and my husband's like, I just want to know so that I can start doing what I need to do. And I can't start until I know. And I just feel like I'm in this horrible limbo where I'm worried and eager to get going, but I can't. They won't let me out of the gate until I have a diagnosis. I started treatment that September. That was June when I found out.
When you heard the words multiple sclerosis, it wasn't the first time you heard them because throughout the process of you being screened for different things, you heard that was a possibility. So it wasn't like a shock. And you probably, knowing how much you read, you probably had read all about multiple sclerosis and all the other conditions that they brought up during the screening process.
It wasn't new in the sense that I had heard it and they had mentioned it, I think for the first time in my life. I had made the decision to not research the possibilities because a lot of them were terrible and they were terrifying. And the diagnosis happens in the context of your life. You're still working, you're still mothering, you're still existing and having to do all these other things. So I really compartmentalized my life at that stage. It was like, we're doing this and we're going to all these doctors and I feel like this here. And when I talk to my husband and when I call my friends, but the rest of the time I have to keep going. And I was still teaching at that time and my kids were small and they were scared. So I did not research for the first time at that point. But I just kept saying, let it have at least one foundation because some of the options were really obscure things and they had no research foundations. I was like, at least let it have one so that it's not that strange and there'll be some kind of treatment that I can do. And I knew multiple sclerosis from, did you ever watch that show, The West Wing?
I probably did, but I have really bad memory. I have to warn you. But I recall the name.
It's one of my favorite shows. And the main character, who's the president, had multiple sclerosis. So I knew it and I kept telling my husband, President Bartlett had it and could still run a country. I'll be fine. And he just looked at me. It was like, that was a TV show. I'm like, let me believe what I need to believe right now to get through this. It's like President Bartlett did it and he was great.
That's hysterical. That's hysterical.
Oh, but I didn't know that much about it. I didn't know that much about it until I had it.
Right. And what is this urge to paint? Can you explain what that is? The urge to paint that came after your diagnosis.
That was ridiculous. I mean, not ridiculous. It was just,
you were like purging. It was a purging strategy.
It was a desire to purge. Yes.
To purge.
And I am I'm a creative person, and I've always processed things through creativity, mainly writing, actually. And it's how I see things and process things. And so you have this humongous, life-changing moment. And again, you can't take a time out from life, which is what I would have loved to have done to get used to the idea. I mean, you say you're going to work and like, okay, I have a mess. And you're going to pick up your kids and, Mommy, I have to get such and such for a project. Let's go to Walgreens. And they're looking for materials. And I have a mess. And all of this is going through in your mind without stopping and freaking out. And how is this going to affect my life and what I can do and how I'm going to be there for my kids and the things that I want to do. And it just doesn't stop. And I remember having this really overwhelming feeling of wanting to see what I was going through. And what my body wanted to do was like get really big white sheets and throw paint on them. That is oddly specific, but I just wanted to like create something that I could see and touch so that I could purge what I was feeling and see it physically, not just have it inside of me.
It's like an
And
outlet,
I
kind of, right? Like an outlet. You
yes,
just need it
and I
out.
am not a painter. My graphic skills are non existent. It was just this urge that I felt. It wasn't to use music, it wasn't to write. It was just that I wanted to throw things and look at what was inside of me, outside of me. No, take everything that I was feeling and make it concrete.
It's like a vomit of paint,
Yes, yes,
a
yes.
vomit of color on
A
sheets.
vomit of feeling. I
Yeah.
mean, it's what I wanted to do. It was to make it real again, to make what I was feeling tangible so that I could see it. And it was really strange because that feeling lasted for a while, and I was so concentrated on doing what I had to do and on my kids that I never gave myself that space. And I actually really regret that because I think it would have been very therapeutic for me. But I don't know, I just concentrated on putting one foot in front of the other and getting everything together and functioning.
Yeah, it's a hard process. You have to figure out too many things at once, and then life keeps going in front of you, and you're in charge. And you cannot
Exactly.
take a break from it. It's like, okay, I need a break, but I can't take it. So, okay, let's keep going. You need what? Okay, next. It's a mess.
Exactly.
It's a mess. It's what it is. It's a mess.
There should really be like a pause button that you can press
Yeah.
and be like, okay, let me process this and then I'll come back to everything I have to do.
Like in the movies, you pause what's around you, and you're just looking around, but everybody is like frozen.
Yes. I would have loved to have been able
I
to do that.
understand you. I mean, I know exactly what that is like, but it's not a possibility. And we are,
Yeah.
hey, we're really troopers because pushing through that particular stage is hard. It's worse than labor. It's like or maybe similar to labor, like it's coming out. You can't stop it. It's here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. I hadn't thought about it like that, but it is absolutely like a labor. It is, you're birthing a new life. You're birthing with new information and new limitations and new way of seeing everything. And yeah, it is. You are birthing a new life. That's a great way of looking at it.
It's the new you. It's the new you.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have to
Yes.
like get to know yourself again and kind of
Yeah.
figure out what I can still do, or what I can't do anymore, and how to kind of reconcile both sides of yourself. And nobody understands, and it's just you trying to figure out, how am I going to do this?
It's a push pull that you have to live with, balancing, I have to listen to my body and rest. And, I'm not going to let this run my life. And I still want to do X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, your body's screaming that you need to do these other things. So you're always balancing that. And at the beginning, that comes better to us with practice as we live and get to know our body now and what we can and can't do. And then you're in treatment and stuff hopefully gets better. But the beginning is just chaos.
Yeah, because in the beginning, you still don't know what your limitations are. And then slowly, as you go, your body teaches you you can't overdo it. You can't go 8 hours anymore. You have to stop, take maybe a little nap or a little break. But you learn the hard way, unfortunately. Then, when you are laying on your bed for 2 days and you cannot get up, not even to go to the bathroom because you overdid it, because you thought you could do the same things, and then you realize, maybe that was not a good idea. But it takes time, like you say. It's in the beginning, you don't know. You're learning a new way, and you make a lot of mistakes. I remember exhausting myself because I'm always going, 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 going. I learned the hard way. So
No, and that's one thing when I talk to newly diagnosed people. That's something I always emphasize, like find your doctor and start treatment right away, but like give yourself time. The adjustment is huge. And honestly, I call it escleroversario in Spanish. The anniversary of my diagnosis is this June for 5 years. And honestly, now is when I am feeling like stuff has settled down enough that I have learned to work with it a lot better. And I found a treatment that is working well, knock on wood. And like the lifestyle changes that I've done, I can see how they're working. Like I feel finally now that it's settling down into my life instead of like being this thing that I'm carrying along. And that's a long time. It'll be 5 years this June. I remember it was the day of the solstice, which is the longest day of the year. And I was like, longest day of the year? Indeed. Oh my God.
Wow. Ended. When is it going to end?
Exactly. That's how I felt. I'm like, I can't believe this.
That's wild. Oh my God. Your blog, Mala de los Nervios. How can we translate it, Melanie? Mala de los Nervios.
Mala de los Nervios literally means ill of the nerves.
Sick to my nerves?
Yeah. But in Spanish, it has a double meaning.
Yeah.
It can mean like your nerves are ill, but also like you're crazy and a little out there.
Two connotations. So when did you start this blog?
I was diagnosed 2019, and like I told my family and my friends, but it wasn't something. How do you bring that up? Honestly, like, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. By the way, I'm now diagnosed with MS. But like my close friends knew. And then I think it was 2021. I started in March, the MS Awareness Month. For some reason, I started posting in my Facebook page about MS. And, it's like I was diagnosed and this is how it goes and this is what it is. But I was doing it in a funny way and trying to keep it light because, MS is a heavy subject. And I just wanted people to actually read what I was writing. And I felt that if I was too heavy with it, it wouldn't happen. So I try to keep it funny, and I made like 3 posts, and then I had some friends being like, you should start a blog. I want to share this, and people should come and read it. So I was like, okay, sure. And I opened up a page in Facebook and then in Instagram at Mala de los Nervios PR, and I just started posting there. And my goal was to tell people about the condition in a way that they could really understand it, but at the same time, like I said, keep it light and keep it funny, but also having a space for myself to publish whatever I wanted to publish. I started, again, writing poetry, and I publish it there. And it's about life with MS. It's not just about MS.
And it's funny as hell. I mean, you have a talent for comedy that, oh my goodness, it's too much. You are very special. you're
no. Am I special or no?
Well, let me take it back.
She has to think about it. That's awesome.
I'll take it back. I'm not thinking about it. I just took it back.
No, I'm kidding. But I'm the type of person that laughs at like inappropriate moments, and just I'm using that part of my brain that's for that.
You have this sarcastic sense of humor, which I adore. I love that. I used it too, but it comes so natural because we Puerto Ricans, we have a lot of sayings that are, very particular to our culture, and they're super funny. And so you use that, incorporate that. It to me is hilarious. I mean, there's nothing that I read that you write that I don't laugh my ass off, because it's super funny. I mean, it's a great approach if you think about it, because you are really, it's like it's raw, but it's funny raw. Like, it's great.
The promise I made to myself was that this space would be a genuine space. Like, I wouldn't be pretending. I would be funny when I felt funny. I would be sad when I felt sad. And that's what I've done. I think that it's just a space to talk about different things, sometimes MS, sometimes motherhood, sometimes life, and stuff that's happening here in Puerto Rico. But I just wanted it to be real, genuine to myself, that I didn't want to fake anything.
It doesn't sound fake
everything's
at all.
beautiful and everything's great. It's like, no, today I woke up and I feel terrible.
I feel like crap.
Last time, last time they found new lesions. I was really upset, which because it really took me by surprise, which makes no sense because I mean this condition progresses. It's but I just felt like my body had traicionado,
Betrayed. Your body
betrayed. I
betrayed.
felt like, what are you doing? I'm taking care of you, and you
Yeah.
you betrayed me by doing this. And I just I felt like that scene from The Office where Kelly Kapoor is just like, I have many questions. First of all, how dare you? That's all I could keep thinking about. It's like, body, how dare you? And I wrote about it like that, and it was, I was really sad, but I was still laughing about it. But at the same time, I was really upset and I was mad. I remember I was so angry, and at the same time I didn't understand. It was what I felt, but I didn't understand why I would be angry with the condition doing what the condition does. I mean, I should expect it.
Yeah, it's part of the prognosis, is what it does. That's the nature of it. It keeps progressing regardless. We slow it down with medication. If I don't think mine has slowed down, but that's what they tell me, so I'm going to believe it. It's the nature of it. So the earlier you understand that and accept that the future might be different from anything you've known, the better you are off. I mean, it's not nice. It's not, you don't want to hear that, but you have to be, it's the reality of it. Yeah. You have to be fully aware that things can change, and keep progressing even if you're doing the right thing. Right. But your writing is amazing because it's funny as hell, but it has substance. Like you were saying, it's exactly how I felt. It's not vague and it's not toxic positivity, like unrealistic things. It's just exactly how you feel with humor, because it's like part of you. It's part of your personality. You can't get that out and like take that out of your personality, and it shows in your writing. I think it's great.
Thank you.
I know you read a lot of books. Have you thought of writing one, or have you wrote a book or working on one? Because you could be like very successful. I tell you.
I have not. Like I said, I've been writing poetry, but I haven't. I don't know. I have not written a book.
Maybe you could start with like a compilation.
I have some friends that have told me, but I'm always like, what would I write about? I have no idea. But I don't know. I've thought about it because actually, going back to the whole creativity thing, once I stopped teaching, music has really taken a back seat to life and the stage of life that I'm in with young kids and older parents is tough. It's a really tough time, and I'm working in something else now. So all of my creativity that needs a place to go, I'm writing. So that's how I'm using it right now.
But still, last year you were part of the global MS score. Let's talk about that. That's a really big project, and people from different countries are involved. Tell me, how did you connect with them? I mean, how did they choose you? What was the process to like get in?
It was really fun. It was, for Global MS Day, which is in May, one of the activities they do is the Global MS Choir. And how it works is you sign up, you don't have to audition or anything. They choose a song and then they send you the music and a recording of your part. But since it's going to be put together digitally, you have to learn it with like certain beats, like and 1, 2, 3, and they're like, clap your hand here so that you set the beat that you're going to use. And then you practice like that. And then they have several rehearsals over Zoom. But the thing is that the conductor was from London. So everything would be London time. And the rehearsal would be like 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. I'm just waking up and getting my kids out the door. And I'm in the little Zoom box with like crazy hair and like closed eyes. But I was at rehearsal. And then you would record yourself if certain parts of it. And then there came a day where everybody would do a joint recording and that's where you see all the little boxes of everyone. And we sang Stand By Me last year. I don't know what they're doing this year, but I would love to join again. It was great. And it was doing things with other patients felt very special because no one's going to understand you like another
Oh
patient.
yeah, for
They
sure.
know what you're talking
Oh,
about. And I'm a huge believer in community, and doing that. Choirs are communities, and they've been a part of my life since I was little, and I've always loved singing in choirs. And so being part of that type of choir was great. It was really fun.
When did they start the application process? I'm gonna try.
You should do it. It's great.
I missed last year. I wanted to. I just missed the deadline. That's the truth.
They haven't come out with the dates and the song and everything yet, but I think they just dropped for World MS Day, like the theme and the posters and everything that you can use on social media. So I think the choir should be coming up next.
All right. You mentioned earlier that you are writing poetry, and I have one of your poems called Mission. Is that what you're working on right now with your writing? Are you posting more poetry? And this Mission in particular, why is it so special? It's very short. I mean, what I saw, but it's very meaningful. What's it mean to you?
It's just that I write in Spanish my poetry so far. It was Mission in Spanish, but then I translated it for here. I renamed it Purpose in English, and I'm just gonna read it real quick. It's really short. Purpose. When I learned the news, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces, and I spent the rest of my life giving away the bits to the people I loved. It was a poem about the moment of diagnosis. It's a life-changing moment. It's a heartbreaking moment, and but at the same time, it's about what do you do with that. You have this news, and what are you going to do with that? Your heart breaks, and what are you going to do with that? I mean, we all have choices. What I really like about Mala de los Nervios and writing on social media is that a lot of people have written to me, newly diagnosed patients, and I'm able to talk to them and be like, this and this happens, but you're going to be fine, and you need to give yourself time to go through this. And I've walked with some people through writing in DMs and stuff through the beginning of their diagnosis. And in general, I just wanted people to know that they're not alone, that there are other people feeling this and getting through it. And if they just happened to find my page, they could feel that. And for me, purpose, the mission, it changed. It changed after the diagnosis. I felt the need to share myself in a way that would maybe, like I said, help people not to feel alone.
That would be a service to others.
I want it to be of service. Because I write for myself, but I want to be of service to other people. And that's how it works. And actually, after my dad died about 3 years ago, and I rethought about this, I remembered my poem, and I realized it wasn't just about my diagnosis. It was really about the heart-wrenching moments in life, the moments that change you. Once that happens, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to, sit in a corner and be angry and sad, which I do. I mean, it's not about ignoring your feelings. It's about doing something with what you're given. And I mean, the things that I'm able to do have changed. Part of the reason, for example, that I have not rejoined choirs and stuff is that they rehearse late at night when I'm like a zombie. I have no more energy. But I mean, I can do other things. I can write, and I can share that, and I can make people feel lighter and laugh a little and be of service that way.
Well, I have a little project that just popped in my head for you and me. How about we sit down and write some music together? Would you be willing to do that? I think we could do
I
that. Like
I think we
we're
could.
both writers. We both like music. Why don't we sit down and write some songs and
That's
see?
not a bad idea. That's
Isn't
great.
that great? And then I always wanted, I don't know if I can say I wanted to do that, but it was something that I thought, it would be like something, one more thing that I could do or try to learn to do. And it doesn't scare me. I mean, I'm a writer myself, so we are on the same, the creativity level is there, and we write both. So I don't know. I think we'll be a good team.
Yeah, I think so
Maybe
too.
we should do that. You never know what comes out of this. I mean, maybe we, hit the jackpot with this
Yeah,
idea that came out here in the podcast.
we should try it. We should try it.
Oh, Okay, I'm gonna hit you up then after this. Yeah. So, Melanie, so let's share your social media platforms, your blog, where people can read all these sarcastic things that you write that are amazing and at the same time are motivational. I think that you inspire people as well because you present it real, but it's also, it has depth to it. So it kind of, gets under your skin, like touches your fibers. Should we say that your nerve fibers?
My damaged nerve fiber.
Maybe that's not the right analogy, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, stuff needs to stop touching my
Just
nerves and
stop.
leave
Get
them
away
alone.
from my nerves already. We had enough
Yes,
of it. You're getting on my nerves already.
there's enough on my
We don't
nerves.
have much left, anyways. Well, we have the nerves. We don't have the covering. That's terrible. All right, I'll think of another analogy later on. I have nothing left.
And in both Facebook and Instagram, I am at Mala de los Nervios PR. That's my handle. And in both places, that's where I'm at. I write my weird stuff and publish my poems and rant a little bit there. And hopefully you can come and we can talk about things and in a very real way. And you can laugh a little and maybe cry a little and be real.
I really like your content. I think it's genuine. I like genuine. I hate fake. I hate when. Have you seen those people on social media that are in the MS world that they present like they are, like they're it. You're not, or things that they can do that really I don't feel identified with because I cannot do those things. And I'm not saying my MS is worse than yours.
No, but I get what you're saying.
And I don't kind of not appreciate that. I find it fake. It's all about them and not for the collective. It's more about them getting notoriety. You understand?
Uh-huh.
And like,
See,
but not really like bringing the whole community with you towards where you're going. It's like them going on the spotlight. I don't quite like that.
I think without maybe realizing it, they're being, I think it's called in English, ableist. That, even if you have a mess, you can do whatever, like you can overcome. And I think it's more about making it okay that there are some things you can't do, and that is enough. I mean, we are enough as we are. We are worthy. We don't have to do anything else in order to be considered good people or like we're trying every day, all day long, and doing the best we can. And sometimes it's a lot, and sometimes it's not very much at all. And that is enough. And if I have seen those accounts that are just like, even if you have a mess, you can do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, good for you that you can do it. But, I can't. That's great. And I don't think that whole attitude, and it's not just subscribe to MS content. It's that whole attitude like, you can do it and never stop. And you can overcome everything if you think about it. I'm like, no, I can't.
No, if I lose my functions and I have axonal damage, hell no. There's many things I can't do, and they will never come back. At least not. We don't know of any cure for that type of damage. It's irreversible sometimes.
I think it's very, very, very important that we always feel like whatever we can do, that is enough. And we are still worthy of love and worthy of doing fun things and worthy of existing as full humans in life, even if we can't do certain things. I mean, if I can't go hiking, it's not that I'm not thinking positive enough. I'm like, no, it's really hot and it's really hard, and I'm gonna half a mile into it, I'm gonna sit down on the floor and not be able to get up.
I drag one leg. I can go
Exactly. O
hiking.
sea, it's not that I can't. I've made up my mind that I can do it. It's just that my body can do it, and I'm enough as I am. We feel that, and we don't listen to people that tell us that that's not it.
I hate it more when they just make it all about themselves, like trying to be so hard. You're trying so hard to be famous. I see that in some accounts. That bothers me. But anyways, who cares? But who's listening?
I'm a huge believer in community.
I respect the community, and I feel like I have a responsibility to be a genuine representation of what living with multiple sclerosis is. So I'm very responsible, and I'm like right now I had a partnership with some shoes that didn't work for me. They might work for other people that have MS, but it didn't work for me. And I told them from the beginning, if they don't work for me, I am not going to post, and I'm going to just be aware I will cancel our agreement. Just know ahead of time, because I cannot tell people, oh yeah, this works, and I'm falling on my face. So I already cancel the agreement because I feel like the responsibility, to represent.
Yeah, it exists, it's there. But also, I believe in community, period, not just like the MS community. But I think stuff is better when shared in more than one person. The
Definitely.
load is lighter.
Yeah.
And when you talk and you feel understood, that also makes you feel lighter and validated. And I think that's really important.
Sure. Come to my group. We have a meeting tonight. There's your community. All right, Melanie. So it was a pleasure having you here and conversating with you. I really love what you do. I think your sense of humor is amazing. I can always use a little bit of comedy because I actually find my life is pretty comical. So yeah, why
I think
not?
it's better to laugh
Oh yeah.
at the ridiculousness of our life
No,
sometimes
no, no. The nonsense. It's just complete nonsense.
Yes,
It's
it's just
nonsense.
ridiculous.
It's funny enough that I made it to the podcast today because my morning was pretty full of humor. A lot of things happened this morning for me before coming here.
Rolling with the punches is a
Exactly.
huge thing for
Exactly.
MS.
Well, thank you for being here. I adore you. I hope that we connect more. Don't be strangers.
No, thank you so much for the invitation. This was great. And I got a little confused with my English sometimes, but almost no Spanglish.
No, no, no.
Which
It was pretty
my
smooth.
goal.
No, it was pretty smooth actually. You get less confused than I. I get very confused, but I struggle with aphasia. I always say it. It's one of the big things that MS decided that I should deal with, on a daily basis. Hopefully, we'll work together. I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I had a great time.
I'm glad you did. We did too.